This is part 5 of my Chris Watts podcast, Chris Watts 2 years on. So, this episode is going to be about debunking the myths and false accusations against Shan'Ann. So, lots of people have compassion for Shan'Ann and feel deeply sorry for what happened to her. Many around the world respect her memory. That's the majority. Unfortunately, there are a small minority of people who hate on Shan'Ann and have made false accusations about her. In this episode, I'm going to address these myths. So, a few days ago, a Shan'Ann hater commented on one of my videos and told me that I need to take Shan'Ann off of her sainthood pedestal. I've said quite literally that I've never painted Shan'Ann as a saint. And I don't think she was a saint. I think she was a flawed human being like everyone else. I don't think she was any better or any worse than anyone else. So these are some of the myths and false accusations that I would like to debunk. So one of the classic ones is that she moved Chris out to Colorado so she could isolate Chris and keep him away from his family. This is a completely false narrative, trumped up by defamers of Shan'Ann. Do you actually know that you don't have to live in the same place that you grew up in? Many young couples move to other states or cities or even countries to start a new life. If Chris didn't want to move to Colorado, then he could have said so. I've seen family photos and video footage of Chris and Shan'Ann with their children and his parents. So this idea that Shan'Ann tried to keep him away from his family is pure nonsense. My mother, in the 80s, when she got married, a few years after she got married, she came from Jamaica and she moved with her husband, my father, to England. And that's much further away than Colorado and North Carolina. Young people move to other cities and other countries all the time. The other accusation against Shan'Ann is that she was an abuser, that Chris was a victim of abuse. There is absolutely no evidence to support that theory. People have said she abused him financially. Lots of young couples run into financial difficulty. In fact, it's a leading stressor in many marriages and not as uncommon as you may think. Third, that Shan'Ann constantly belittled and humiliated Chris. In fact, I looked at her Facebook page and Instagram page not long after she passed, and I've watched her videos, and the vast majority of the time when she talks about Chris, she has almost nothing but good things to say about him. What a wonderful father he is, how much she loves him. Before she took that trip to North Carolina, she talked about cooking meals for him that he could just go into the fridge, take out, and warm up for himself. You cannot fawn over someone every single day of your life. It's not realistic. I'm sure they did have arguments, and I'm sure she criticized him at times, but so what? The other accusation against Shan'Ann, the other myth, is that she was a bad mother. There is nothing that Shan'Ann would not have done for her children. Shan'Ann was half Italian. For Italians, family is everything. She wanted to spend as much time with her children as possible. She made sure that they were clothed and fed, that they had a routine, that they had a close sisterly bond, that they were respectful. Those girls loved each other and they loved their mother. I remember her father talking about how they would constantly ask when their mother was coming home. Shan'Ann was very protective of her children. That's why she was so angry about the Nutgate incident. Like I said, I have never once said Shan'Ann was a saint. I have never once said that Shan'Ann didn't have flaws. Shan'Ann was human. But she was a good person and she loved those children and she loved her husband.